have this as a chance to, for those that haven't been able to make it or that couldn't make it today, we'll have a chance to record it. So what we'd like to do, we'll do some introductions, kind of share your name, where you're from, and then what CRM you're using. And then we'll get into a little bit more of the topic today. I have a couple different ones that we could talk about. So one is about fundamentals. The other is about contact cleanup. So what I would actually, invite you to say is, as we're starting out the fresh new year, which of those two might sound better, or if there's something else that you would like, we'll have an opportunity to really kind of catch and do as much as we can in the 30 minutes because we really like to be tight with the time here. And if there's a topic that needs to be continued, we could do that at another time. So welcome all, and we'll start off with you, Gabe, and then we'll do some intros, and then we'll get into it and do the Q&A.
All right, well, very quickly, Gabe Tevrizian. I'm out of Scottsdale, Arizona, but I am the director of growth for CBM. Let me see if I can, because I just started about a month and a half ago, so I'm trying to remember the names of the firm partners. Counselor Buchanan and Mitchell out of Washington, D.C.'s Bethesda area. So, I've been in the space for 15 plus years. I know Mike very, very well, or I think I do. Anyway, I'll leave it there, and I can come back with I think the topics that you brought up are good. I am this is probably the smallest firm I've ever worked for, and so the fact that we don't have a CRM system in place just yet is a little bit daunting or unexpected.
Okay,
So I'll leave it there.
Well, one thing, I'll mention as we get over to, there's something that I think might help you with that too. So after you attend to this call, I send out an email, but I'll get into a little bit more of the details there. So thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we'll hop over to Jordan.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Jordan Shanks. I'm the Vice President of Sales at ACS, which is a technology firm based in Iowa. I met Mike through a current rebrand we're working through, and so partner with them on some items. We currently use a technician-built CRM called ConnectWise, which, if you know anything built by a technician, it's not really a CRM. But we have just purchased HubSpot to make a transition, and so this will be my third HubSpot implementation. Okay. And so really excited about the move and excited to put that in place to start building that out. So a little bit about us.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's great. And HubSpot's a fantastic tool. Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining us. All right. We'll shift over to Caitlin.
Yes. Hey guys, Caitlin T. Meyer. So I am the marketing manager at ACS. So I work with Jordan. Okay. Both of us joined the ACS team within the last 3 or 4 months. So we're pretty new and jumping into this rebrand project with Resound to kick things off. I spent the last 8 years in the accounting space. And so now moving into IT, that's a different challenge, but it's fun. And so, yes, we are onboarding HubSpot currently, working with trying to figure out, we have the marketing hub implemented, but the contact cleanup, because everything is coming in through ConnectWise, which is a mess. And so that's a big project that we're trying to figure out right now.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. That's going to be great. Yeah, again, I'm super excited about all of this after not only what we're going to talk about, but also what I like to send out afterwards, which is a nice worksheet for some of the things that we're going to talk about. We'll have an opportunity for you to be able to apply inside of a spreadsheet that you could essentially kind of see how it works and fits for you. So awesome. Fantastic. All right. Let's shift over to Kevin.
Hey, as Mark mentioned, I'm in Bend, Oregon, with him usually, in co-working space. So that's how I know this crew. And I run a website marketing agency out of Bend. We have a focus on accessibility, and we are a Webflow agency, kind of A to Z. And I think since the last time I was on this call, we've actually implemented HubSpot, and this is our first time doing it. So it's learning something new every day. And yeah, I just kind of put it off for a long time because it's just like a buzzword of things. But so far, I'm pleasantly surprised. Yeah, not quite ready for the jump up in the monthly plan, as I'm under 1,000 contacts. I could probably just rattle them off my head. But yeah, as we hopefully plan for growth, eventually we'll likely need to scale, and it seems like a good platform. So excited to learn more. And if I had to say one thing, I'm definitely at the foundational stage of the best way to utilize it at our size.
Sounds great. Okay, perfect. All right, and we'll shift over to you, Mike, and then yeah, if you, I know who you are. I think most know, but yeah, welcome. Excited to be co-hosting with you here. This is awesome.
Thanks, Mark. Mike Jones. I think all of you know me at some level, but I wear a lot of different hats, and some of you know me from my Resound hat, which is my branding and marketing agency with Sam Pagel and a few others over on the Resound team. Worked with some of you on different projects. We're working right now with ACS on a few different things, so excited about that. And then today I'm wearing my Kindred hat, which is a very new brand in existence that Mark and I are working together to get launched. And it's the reason why we're doing these calls. So we do 2 calls a month, really just to introduce people to things that we're doing with CRMs and with specifically with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which will be our other call this month. So if you got questions on that, be sure to join us on that call. But Kindred is a business development, training, and outreach program development company. It's just Mark and I right now, and we're supported by the Resound team. It helps in the background, but it's the 2 of us combining all of our experience doing business development, sales, professional services firms for the last, for both of us, really like 15, 20 plus years each, and trying to apply that for others. We've been doing that kind of behind the scenes. Particularly, I've been doing that with some of Resound's clients, and we're ready to kind of make that public and launch that fully here. So we appreciate all of you. We'll send out a little bit more info about that after the call, so you're aware of what Kindred does. KindredGrowth.com is the website. So awesome. I'm in Phoenix, down the street from Gabe, sort of, kind of.
Awesome. Okay. Fantastic. All right, great. Well, I'll give a quick brief intro. You know, and the one thing that I'll just kind of mention, Mike nailed it with in terms of explaining Kindred and what we're doing there. And really, Kindred is an approach to business about building business relationships over time. I met Mike almost a decade ago. I used to live in Arizona. I relocated to Bend about 3 years ago. And you know, it's really one of those things that Mike and I were friends. We had a great opportunity to connect. Then he ended up hiring me to work through my previous firm, which is where some of maybe the existing collateral is. We're updating that, but just know that I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet that has my old firm on it. But, you know, what it really came down to is it's about building relationships. And at the heart of CRM, like literally in CRM, is customer relationship management. And so I look at, you know, CRMs are amazing for automations and capabilities there. Most importantly, though, it's about relations, right? And so that's really what I think about. Each contact in your database is a human life that just had a holiday, just that experienced the new year and all of the different things that we all have. You know, a lot of people are setting goals and everything. And like, I think about each and every single one of those people in that contact field is that. And so what I really wanted to reflect on today is beginning to identify those that your firms can all choose to serve, and then also those that are really kind of outside of the scope, being able to eliminate, you know, those, because your firm may not serve them well. Not to say that, you know, you don't care about those people. It's just a matter of how do you kind of connect with them. So that's really at the heart of what it is that we're really doing. And so because I've known Mike for as long as I have, it's like it just was a natural connection for us to partner up here and do this. So I'm excited about doing those 2 things together here. So what I'm going to do first is, you may have all received this spreadsheet. So I'm just going to share it real quickly, or not share it. I'm just going to screen share, which is the worksheet. And so as we're talking about contact organization, what I like to do is, these are 5 key areas that you can start to look at. As I mentioned, there's going to be a spreadsheet that I send out afterwards that has a lot of these fields, kind of almost like the most essential. Now, obviously, you can add a lot more to it, but it's a spreadsheet that could kind of start to get you and your team wrapped around what you may need, right? Gabe, from the standpoint of you starting out a new CRM, or Caitlin and Jordan, as you're cleaning up your contacts, how do you really kind of put them into the right fields, and being able to kind of work with it outside of HubSpot before you import it is really essential. Dirty data in, dirty data out, clean data in, clean data out. So, what we're going to talk about here, and again, I'm happy to dig in a little bit more, but I'd love to see what kind of questions you may have about these areas. But these are some of the most important fields that I see that could be really, really pivotal for as you're doing that. And Kevin, as you're newly launching HubSpot, these are some of the main ones that you'll be able to look at. And they progressively get a little bit more nuanced as you go through. So source is one of those where setting up a standard, how do you want to set up your source fields? Whether it be marketing, communication, like, what does your team normally do when they're going out and meeting new people? So that way, when you do need to run a filter and see where things are, where those opportunities are coming from, you can actually look out at the source. So I like to look at maybe 3 to 5, what I just did there, but 3 to 5 different source types. Then there's the persona. Do you guys all have personas for? I'm seeing a nod ahead for Kevin.
Working on it with the rebrand.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's why these things definitely coincide with everything that you're going to be doing with Resound. And then Gabe, I think I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm struggling to answer questions because, I said that I don't have a CRM system right now. I came from firms that we used, and I completely redesigned data flow with CRM being at the heart of it. So I am pretty well versed in the area of CRM, except that I've been looking at HubSpot as a solution that potentially we're going to implement at my new firm. And so I thought maybe this could be a good opportunity. So in the context of personas, yes, we do have that. We're building that out, though, as I continue to establish myself. But yeah, everything you're saying so far is something that I've, in one way or another, I've dealt with over the last 15 years.
Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, perfect. And again, these are some of those fundamentals, right? And again, it's being able to do those consistently and having the team know what those things are. Because the more specific we are on those personas, the more opportunities we have to really send out automations and sequences that will have an opportunity to do, right? One of the early personas that I had created was Michael Marketer, and I sent out certain things to Michael Marketer that were different than a Corey CEO for something else that I was working on. So just again, being able to almost like sequence out certain things for a Michael Marketer versus a Corey CEO gives the opportunity for, as you're doing this implementation inside of HubSpot or whatever CRM, I mean, looks like everyone's using HubSpot, so that's great. And then lifecycle stage, I actually just was asked to contribute to the AIM growth strategies, and I mentioned something in that the growth strategies catalog for this past month. The whole idea of life cycle stage and really being able to look at it from the standpoint of how do you qualify what is a marketing qualified lead? What actually is that designation? And how does your team know exactly who they are versus a sales qualified lead versus an opportunity versus a subscriber versus a lead, right? So there's all of those life cycle stages inside of HubSpot. And so again, I'm happy to kind of dig in a little bit more on some of these questions or even some of the nuances that might be able to be of assistance for that, because when you know that you have a naming convention around a marketing qualified lead is only someone who comes in through a lead magnet or a paid ad or SEO or something, you could put all of those integrations inside of HubSpot, and then it will know that it will go marketing qualified lead versus a business development rep and they're out there prospecting and they're a sales qualified lead because that business development person was out there contacting and creating that lead. So then you could start to identify where they are, versus even like what I consider like an opportunity is a little bit more of a standpoint of when you have a meeting with someone, right? And being able to set that designation and having HubSpot follow along the line. So as you get to, as the managers need to look and see where's the sales pipeline looking like, you can see, well, we've got, 50 or 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 in sales qualified lead. And then we've got, 50 in opportunities because we have ongoing meetings with these types of people. So life cycle is a very important, I think, much overlooked, because lead, sales qualified lead, marketing qualified lead, they get muddled really quickly if you don't start to set an idea for what those things are. So let me just kind of pause there for a second. I know I've been talking quite a bit, so I want to make sure I open it up for some questions about that. Any questions or any thoughts coming up right now?
I guess I'll just say, so in my previous roles when we used HubSpot, we didn't utilize the sales hub. We didn't have dedicated sales reps. And so that's something that we are most likely going to be utilizing now. And so the life cycle stage and like that element is a little bit newer to me. And so that's where my head is going, is thinking about how the sales reps will be utilizing that and how that fits into the flow of everything else.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm happy to kind of dig in a little bit more on there. So I'm gonna just stop sharing my screen and just chat a little bit more towards that. So when you think about the sales reps and what they're going to be doing, and Gabe, do you also have some sales reps that are at your team?
Not as of right now, and that was going to be a question to you in terms of how in the context, purely in the context of the accounting profession, knowing that sales may or may not have full jurisdiction over the CRM system. Right. What in your conversations in the article, I haven't read it actually, but so some of the points that maybe you have picked up from conversations with accounting firms, I was just curious about how those sales cycles have been addressed, because, well, I can bore you with the details, but I'll stop right there.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to getting into like all of the details about sales, it's more or less allowing sales to make sure that they're cleaning up. I mean, just like we've got to clean up our house, right? We could come in and there's a lot of different things. I mean, obviously we just all had a lot of different holiday celebrations, right? Everyone coming, cleaning up the house, making sure everything looks nice. And then as everyone's leaving, the house is just a complete disaster, right? Well, you have to basically clean it back up again, right? And so my invitation with this, and as we're going to kind of dig into this, is really being able to establish, whenever the sales team does end up stepping into this, that they know that this is what a sales qualified lead is going to mean for communications versus what a marketing qualified lead is going to mean for communication as well. And let me give a really clear example. I was talking with a firm, and basically sales, if there's a marketing qualified lead and they're solely a marketing qualified lead, and marketing has an ongoing, like, let's just say a monthly newsletter, right? And they send out that monthly newsletter or something that's kind of still gearing more of that lead magnet to kind of stay in touch. If they have it labeled as a marketing qualified lead, but the sales rep is actually talking with them on a direct basis, right? And they may have just talked to someone, them getting a marketing communication from marketing saying, hey, you should set up a meeting with someone, right? That is the designation between having marketing understand what marketing's lane is and what the sales lane is. And so being able to know that, hey, when you have someone in your contact list that is a marketing qualified lead, know that they're getting all of these other communications And if you're already talking with them, you might not want them to get some of these more automated, kind of generalized communications trying to set up a meeting if you already have a meeting set with them. So I think it's more along the lines of how do you make sure that a sales qualified lead has that designation of there's someone from sales is touching it, right? Meaning that they have a regular communication. They may have them in some sort of sales drip sequence that you can have set in the sales hub. But the more important piece is just really understanding and having that particular contact known for where they are in the overall funnel. Okay, Kevin, you have a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe this would be a question for Mike, but like having an example of what that looks like in a real life scenario. Obviously, Mike and I are both in creative fields, but yeah, like an example of what that looks like a real life example would be helpful for me.
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. I think every firm's gonna be different in terms of how they slice marketing qualified versus sales qualified. For our firm, sales qualified is always someone who has said, I have an interest in talking to you about a project, right? So it's either an RFQ has been sent to us or some call has been scheduled or they've reached out to schedule a call. That is specific to like a need, not just first call after attending one of our events or as soon as they say, hey, I'm interested in hearing more about your services, that's usually for me the qualifier of like sales qualified, right? And especially if it's like, hey, we have a project coming up, I want to talk to you about it. For a small firm like ours, that's probably about as nuanced as it needs to get. Bigger firms who probably have more leads in their pipeline, you might want to draw that line a little bit higher in your funnel. That might be something like, hey, there's a really key downloadable, gated piece of content that we know is very high, it's very low in our funnel in terms of indicating that that's a prospect that we should be talking to with a sales, someone in that sales role, whether that's an actual, sales or business development person, or, in the case of Gabe, I would assume most of it's the partners or their associates in the firm who are doing the sales, and handing that off to them to say, hey, this person downloaded this. We know that this is a highly qualified lead once they download this piece, or maybe there's another interaction. Maybe it's they download that piece and they went to a certain page. Maybe it's a case study or a certain solutions page on the website that is like really good indicator that this is a pretty warm lead that's moving from like, hey, I just want to be on your newsletter list and kind of lurk in the background and kick the tires for a while, to someone who's like, yeah, they're about ready for a phone call. Like if we called them or we sent them a direct email, probably in the next 24 hours, they're likely to want to schedule a call. So every firm's going to need to kind of slice that a little bit differently in terms of kind of where do you draw that line. The other kind of general principle I've taken with clients on this is marketing qualified leads belong to marketing. So they are not getting calls. They're not getting direct emails from sales or any other sales-oriented person in the firm. And if you're in a small firm like mine, it's going to be me. For you, Kevin, I'm assuming it's probably you or someone on your team who's dedicated or more dedicated to that. And so that's a marketing qualified lead. That's someone who is like, if you're not comfortable emailing them directly to schedule a call to talk about your services, that's probably a good indication that's still a marketing qualified lead. So then trying to kind of reverse engineer, like what are the behaviors or the data signals that tell us they've crossed that line? And again, for our firm, that's as simple as they reached out and said, hey, I want to schedule a call about a project, right? Or, sometimes it's a more formal, like, hey, we have this RFQ, we'd like you to respond to it. That kind of thing. So that for me in HubSpot looks like as soon as they're in one of my deal pipelines. So if you're using the pipelines for deals, For me, that's where I draw that line and say that's now a sales qualified lead. You probably could make a case to draw that line a little bit sooner. There's, I think, a time coming here in the next probably 12, 18 months for us where we probably need to back that line up a little bit. If it's like, hey, somebody wants to schedule a call coming out of a webinar, out of an event, something like that, it probably is a good indicator. That's probably a sales qualified lead. But that's where we stand today, is once it enters that deal pipeline. And all of our pipelines right now start with first stage is a request for more information about our services. So that usually looks like a meeting, not always, but it's typically a meeting, some kind of call.
Perfect.
How many stages do you have? I was going to say before, so MQL, SQL, how many stages do you have before MQL? Like if you could see somebody's visited your website or interacted, like added you on LinkedIn, is that just like a prospect?
Well, yeah, and because you can't, currently I don't have any data to feed HubSpot for that person to create a contact. So like a website visit, unless I already have the email address, and this is one thing I would actually fault a little bit with HubSpot. It does not handle contact records well that don't have email addresses. You can put them in, but it doesn't really handle them super well. It's not built around that concept. So I typically am not tracking in HubSpot any kind of status or lead status further up than marketing. Only because once I have an email address, then they're a marketing qualified lead. Now, I do have prospects in LinkedIn that are pre-email address, right? Like I don't have an email address yet. And those do not currently get tracked in HubSpot, for good or for bad. I don't know. In an ideal world, I think it'd be great to track those in HubSpot. Yeah. But then we're doing double entry and it's a ton of manual work. So
yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and I love everything you said there, Mike. And the biggest thing as we're kind of wrapping up here today, and I'd love to get one or two takeaways in terms of like what you heard here today, is really getting clear on where that line is and just notating that is the rule, right? You've heard a number of different conversations here today about what a marketing qualified lead. Marketing owns it. So therefore, they're not getting direct communication. So there's no possible chance of a salesperson or a firm or someone. Okay, Caitlin, thank you so much for joining. Awesome. So, if that's the case, then, you just really start to designate that out as a very specific rule. And that's really it. And then as Mike was just even saying, this is going to be changing. I mean, a CRM is not something where you set it and forget it. Gabe, you've been a part of it for a long time. Jordan, I'm sure you've done a lot of different things as well around it. So it's like, it's not one of those things that you set it and forget it. You're constantly updating it and revising it and reviewing it. But the key is, how do you start to set those very clear rules of marketing owns it, sales owns it here, and then where does that go from a lead to a sales qualified lead or a lead to a marketing qualified lead, and kind of almost keeping it as simple as that. As I alluded to a little bit earlier in the call, I will be sending out it's a simple like a Google sheet that you'll be able to download. It includes a lot of those fields and why I'm including those fields. And so as you're starting to do contact cleanup, you can pull all of that information inside of it. Okay, so thanks, Jordan. I know you got to hop too. All right, awesome. So that's really it. So any particular takeaway that you guys have from today?
I think the takeaway for me is that not much has changed in terms of the challenges. Everything I've heard, over the last decade or plus. But no, this is good. Just a good reminder of the things about clarity, right? And I think at the end of the day, what I think matters most is like, yeah, you have marketing, you have sales. I just think that as if you don't have a designated person overseeing the CRM system, both not just operationally or technically, but just purely on the sales side, you're going to miss a lot and things are going to go out of whack very, very quickly. So the investment has to not just be the piece of software that you're buying, but it has to be a bigger package, if you will, where you have that level of oversight and commitment and how it ties into the rest of the systems in the firm. So
well said. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much for that contribution. Thanks for joining. And, if you would like as well, if there's ever anything that you'd like to kind of dig in a little bit more, after you take a look at the sheet that I'm going to send over to you, feel free. We could set up a meeting and I'm happy to go over anything that would serve you. So
sounds great.
Thanks for joining. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
All right.
Bye.
See you, Gabe.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. All right.
Yep.
All right.
Kevin,
Bye, everyone.
anything? All right. Thank you so much for joining, Kevin. I was going to say, is there a takeaway that you had?
Yeah, I just need to dedicate more time to being in HubSpot is what I'm realizing. Just making that time to go in and do these things. I'm just getting used to making it part of my daily habit. Whereas as a creative, I kind of want to be doing other things like designing and developing. But
if you could think about it too, that naming convention sheet that I sent out, where it's source and then persona and then life cycle and then lead status, focus on one of those a week. Work it.
Yeah,
you could almost
together to
do something like that.
Yeah, just have to. Yeah. Now I need
take
to
that time.
Start acting on it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining and Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year, guys. See ya.
All right,
See you, Kevin. Good to see you again.